Welcome everyone to this next session of AAC in the Cloud. We're glad to have you here. This session will be presented by Chana Feinstein, and she will be talking about how to get beginning AAC users to interact with you. And we'll turn the time over to her. Thank you.
Hi guys, can everyone hear me? Is that good? Okay, I'm going to assume you guys can hear me. Let me know if that's not the case. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys, and our topic today is how to get beginning AAC users to interact with you. And what I'm really focused on is those early device users who can use their device a little bit, but really what are they doing? Like it's for requesting. If they want a specific toy, if they want goldfish crackers. But you know, even though they're perfectly capable of using their device for those things, when it comes to anything else, they don't seem interested in interacting with you. And as a clinician, you know, that's really, really hard because you know you're supposed to be modeling all these different types of communicative functions, but how are you going to do that if they seem like they could care less about everything that you're doing? So before we get into the content, let me just tell you a little bit about my background. I am first of all, let me just tell you how to pronounce my name. It's kind of hard. It's a Hebrew name, so it's Chana. So Chana Feinstein. And I am a speech therapist at a nonprofit. And my caseload right now is about 80% kids with developmental disabilities and 20% adults with developmental disabilities. So I have a ton of people who use AAC on my caseload, and I don't know, I have a really fun job. I love that. And I do most of the AAC evals at our facility, as well as we have an AAC device loan library. So I maintain that library, loan things out to people, and I also recommend devices to add to our collection. So the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to interaction. So I would really strongly recommend, if you want to learn more about this, you don't have too much background in this. So More Than Words is a really great resource. That's put out by the Hannon Center. And it's their book. It's by Fern Sussman, and it's their book that is geared towards parents of a child who has autism. So it's Hannon principles, but done a little bit differently because it is geared towards kids who have autism. Another great resource is the Early Start for Your Child with Autism and Early Start for Your Child with Autism, which is a very parent-friendly book that kind of talks a lot about how to build those interaction and communication skills. And then there's a version of that, which is the Early Start Denver Model for Young Children with Autism, like their, I don't know what they call it, but they're like their manual, whatever. That is geared towards speech therapists. It's much more technical. And it's a little pricey. It's like $50, I think, but the stuff at the back, they have this amazing section at the back, which is a goal bank. And I think, honestly, the price, you know, I would just buy the book for those goals alone. Forget about all the rest of it. It was totally worth it to get those goals because they're just so useful in helping you figure out what to do with some of the kids on your caseload. And you also might be interested in listening to Laura Mize. She is, excuse me, she is an early intervention speech therapist who has a great podcast. She does not do too much with AAC, but if you're interested in learning more about building interaction skills and play skills, communication skills, she is great, and she has a bunch of self-published books that she put out. So here's one of them, Teach Me to Play With You, which gives therapists ideas of different games they can play with kids on their caseload. Okay, so we said we're talking about kids who are great at using their talker for requesting specific things. So you can see this kid here. He is totally awesome. I love this picture. He's totally awesome. I don't know. I don't remember what he was using. Was it more? Was it want? Was it block? I don't know. But whatever it was, he was great at it. Okay. But in terms of doing any other kind of communication, you know, really not doing much. And me as the speech therapist, I have fun toys and I'm a fun person and I have so much I want to give to this child. But honestly, in his eyes, like I'm just kind of like a piece of furniture in the room. I'm there, he sees me, but I'm not very interesting. I'm the background, and he's interested and involved in other stuff. He's busy with his play. And so, some kids, their play is going to be moving around a lot, like kids who love to climb on everything. And that's what's really drawing their attention. For some kids, it's going to be that tap, tap, tapping on toys. And that's what they're loving. That's what their focus is on. For some kids, it's going to be lining up those toy cars and endlessly recombining them into different lines. For some kids, it's going to be spinning everything they find and looking at those properties, the physical properties there. And then for some kids, it's going to be, they're going to be playing with toys in a way that looks a little more typical, but they're not interested in engaging you in their play. They want to do their own thing. And if you sit down next to them, boom, they are up. They are across the room. They are going to take their stuff with them and get away from you. It's that interaction. They don't understand the interaction. They don't understand yet that you are a fun play partner. Okay, so we all know as speech therapists that, of course, this is a quote from the book that I talked about earlier, which is An Early Start for Your Child with Autism. We know that what children learn about communication, emotions, language, and social interaction, it comes from having lots of individual experiences with watching, imitating, and interacting with people. So language and communication are inherently social activities. And so my child on my caseload is not going to make a lot of progress if I'm not really pushing that interaction, because the language and the interaction are so entwined. And something else to keep in mind is that we are adults and we have lost a lot of our capacity for play. But think back to what the toys were that you played with deeply and intensely as a child. And for everybody, that's going to be something different. For me, I took a picture here. These were my two dolls, Henrietta and Jane. And my mother made them for me. And I played with them for years. And they were vividly real to me. And I did so much within those play interactions to learn about the world, to practice things, to grow. It's something that children do. And we don't even pay attention to what they're doing, but they're living when they're playing with their whatever toy it is that they're intensely fascinated by. When they're in that play zone, they're in a kind of mental space that we can't really get into anymore. And I remember when I was in 7th grade. It was near the beginning of 7th grade. And I had decided that I was way too old to play with dolls. And I had a wooden dollhouse with these dolls that I had loved and played very intensely with for probably 3 years. But I think in 6th grade, I decided I was done with dolls. So I put them away. But I came home one day from 7th grade. Gosh, junior high is so rough. And I needed the comfort and the moving into a different kind of world that play gives you. And so I remember opening my closet door and taking out that dollhouse. And I was doing everything right with my dolls, but they would not work. I was moving them around. I was setting up their furniture, everything, I was making them talk, but it wouldn't work anymore. And I remember just feeling so sad, knowing that I was not going to be able to enter that alternate reality of a child anymore. So realize that play is so powerful for children. And when we are working on building those play skills with children, that is the best way to work on language and communication and interaction is within play. It's super, super powerful for them. And, anytime I'm introducing working on a new language concept with a child, I'm doing it within play because that's where they first become good at it before we take it out into the real world, right? And if you kind of try to do the opposite and you work on it without using the magic of play, I don't know. I find that it takes longer, and I don't know, they just get better at it much faster within the play world. Okay, so there are different ways to categorize the types of play, but I'm going with Fern Sussman's way of doing it in More Than Words, which is that Hannon book I had talked about. And I like this because it's really simple and clear for parents, especially when you're kind of explaining this to them. But basically, so there's, let's say, 5 major types of play. So one is for kids who really aren't playing with toys, and that would be sensory exploration. So if they come across a toy, they're going to be mouthing it, they're going to be chewing it, they might be throwing it, rubbing it on their face, whatever, that kind of stuff. They're not really engaged with the toy as a toy, and they're not coming back to it again and again. It's just, more of that exploring its sensory properties and then, kind of discarding it. So we'll talk about what to do with those kind of kids. And then there are kids who do play with toys, and some of them are playing with the toy in unconventional ways. So they might take a toy truck, but instead of doing what you would expect a person to do with a toy truck, they're instead banging it against the wall, or they're spinning it, they're lining it up, whatever. And then there's functional play, which is where a child takes a toy and does the expected action with it. They're using the toy in the way that it was created to be played with. So if they have a ball drop toy, so they are dropping the ball down in the chute and watching it go around. If they have a puzzle, they are putting that piece into the puzzle. If they have a drum, they are banging on the drum. So that is one level, or one type. I don't want to say level, because I don't want to give this idea that it's all like hierarchical. It's not true. But that's one type of play. Another type of play is constructive play, which is using toys to build something. And it's kind of like having a goal in mind. So you're working towards something. So it might be with, I don't know, Lego or blocks or whatever. You might be putting together a simple house and then crashing it down, and that's lots of fun. Or you might be using Play-Doh to create a snake, or maybe something a little more elaborate. You might be using Play-Doh to make a cookie and sticking like sprinkles on top that you rolled out of Play-Doh, whatever. So that is constructive play. And then there is pretend play, which is symbolic. It's taking a toy and pretending that it is, and letting it stand for something else, right? So at a simple level, if I would take up a toy phone and put it to my ear and pretend to be talking. So that's a very simple type of pretend play. And there are other levels of pretend play. It gets more and more complex, all the way through to when a child is creating like an imaginary scenario and acting it out with other peers. Like you can think about like a preschool or a kindergarten classroom where children are playing house together, and okay, they're assigning roles. You'll be the mommy, you'll be the daddy, et cetera, et cetera. And there's so much learning of communication skills and social skills and et cetera that take place within that context. Okay, and it's important. Let me just go back to my previous slide for a second. It's important, like when we're looking at it from an adult kind of perspective and looking at play in, breaking it down and kind of analyzing what kind of play it is, that's good for us to have that knowledge. But it's much more important for us to think about when we're watching this kid and trying to figure out what kind of play they are engaged in and what really interests them. We want to think, what can I learn from this kid? Okay, because you don't want to go in there like an outsider coming in and you have an agenda and you want the child to do X, Y, or Z. You're not going to be as successful if you have that kind of approach. If you go in there and you're just watching that child and you're appreciating that child and you're saying, what can I learn from him? So maybe I'm running around and I'm so crazy busy with my adult life that I'm not really stopping to notice how interesting the light is when it shines through that window and falls onto certain toys. But he's there on the floor and he's looking and he's so intent on that. And the way that he's spinning those wheels on all those cars that are lined up there and watching the interplay of that light. Okay, so whatever it is that you can learn from that child, look for that. Okay, go into it looking to learn and being open. and you're going to get really good results with that. All right, so what's our plan for our therapy sessions? So what should I do with this kid? So I've looked at this kid and I've kind of figured out the types of play that he likes to do. Oh, an important point here. I forgot to tell you guys. So it's usually the case that a child, I don't want to say usually, it's often the case that a child is engaging in more than one type of play. It's, you know, it's hard for us to know what's going on in a child's world. It really is. And it's pretty common for kids to be doing some of all the different kinds of play or some of several different types of play. And I think especially with pretend play, we really sometimes miss the fact that they are having these rich inner lives. Especially with our kids who are kind of jargony, they may be doing stuff and it doesn't look like pretend play to us, but in their head it is, and there's a lot going on there. So anyway, okay, having said that, so for planning your sessions, what am I going to do? There's a kid who primarily is interested in not playing with toys, who's primarily just exploring them for sensory reasons. So I'm going to do body-based play. I'm going to do games like peekaboo and chase and, lifting them up in the air, things like that. I'm going to create consistent verbal routines where I'm using very simple language and I'm saying the same thing over and over again. And I'm having a lot of fun. I'm just looking really excited and I'm just being a great play partner. And that's how I'm going to start really building language for that child. That's what interests that child. That's sensory stuff. And that's where I'm going to focus my energies. For kids who do play with toys, so you're going to insert yourself in their play. You're going to get their attention by being really fun and really positive. And we'll talk more about how to do that, but we're going to eventually encourage turn taking and imitation, joint attention, and pretend play. You're going to be modeling ways to expand the play, and you're going to be modeling a variety of communicative functions. Okay, so before we talk about play, let's just talk about setting up your room for success. Now, if you are in a therapy room kind of thing, then you can do that. If you're working in a home or in a classroom or whatever, it's not as easy, but you do need to kind of think about ways to minimize distractions because it's hard for a lot of our kids to focus on interaction when they are not inherently, strong in that area. So as much as you can, it's not always easy, but try to limit the toys and furniture that you have. Limit the visual clutter. I really don't have anything on my walls except for that whiteboard thing, which I hate, but it's there and I don't have a choice about it. And then you want to try to make the corners appealing, because if you can get the kids to play with you like more in the corners, they're a little more contained and they're going to often, I find, stay there a little bit longer in that interaction. And of course, you want to think about where to put the toys so you can retain control of them, whether that's going to be boxes or zippers or like a table that's kind of acting as a natural barrier between you and the kid, whatever. And then you have to think about where's their device going to go. And you need it to be near their eye level. And they need to be able to easily see it and reach out and use it. Another thing you want to do to minimize those distractions is to, use cabinet locks and use those little light switch cover things so that they can't be flipping the lights on and off. Whatever. Do whatever you need to do to set your room up to minimize distractions. And then in terms of ways to organize your furniture. So I like to so here's a map of like one of the good configurations that I like to use in my room. So I put out a little table, and that smiley face is the speech generating device, and it's facing toward where I think the kid is going to be. And so I want that kid preferably to spend most of his time working in the corner that's farthest away from the door, so I don't have to worry about him, running out. So I'm going to put an OK toy there in that corner so that when he comes, he's going to come in and he's going to gravitate towards that toy. Now my chair, I'm going to be sitting in that, I'm going to sit down in that chair and kind of block it. So he has to kind of go around. So he's in that corner to get that toy, and he's standing there and he's playing with it, but it's not like a toy that he loves. It's just an okay toy. The good toys are under my chair and they are controlled. I have, I'm the one who controls the access to them. And over to the side, I have my escape route, because I find that my kids who struggle with interaction need to feel that they can escape the interaction if they need to. So I make sure there's that area where he can just like walk away if he needs to. And in the opposite corner, I have put a really boring toy, but that can be enough to just, if he needs to take a little break, he can escape for a couple minutes, just kind of chill in the corner with the boring toy. And then hopefully, I'll be engaging enough that he'll want to come back to me. And, you could also do it. So some kids prefer to have like more of a separation between me and the kids. So I have a table there so that I am just a little farther away from them. But again, that device has to be right where they can be, where they're going to be. And then for kids who really aren't into toys yet, so I'm going to set up my chair, the kids' chair, and I'm going to have the device sitting on a chair also, so that I don't want tables around, because we're going to be moving around and getting a little wild. So I don't want to be banging into tables and all that. So, and I can move my chair a lot easier than I can move a table. So if I need to move my chair around that has the speech generating device on it, great. Okay, so let's go through the different types of play. So if you are working with a kid who is drawn towards sensory stuff, and you're going to be doing those body-based games. So like we said, you're creating a verbal routine, you're consistent with it, you've got to be really fun and excited. You want to follow his lead. Okay, so you're going to really tune in to his body language and everything that's going on. Do they like what you're doing? Do they not? And some of the games you might be playing are like side up, where you kind of lean them to the side this way and that way, and then lift them up, or wait, jump, or whatever. I'll talk about that on the next slide a little bit more. But once the kid is familiar with that game, you're going to start pausing right before a key moment. So like right before you lift that blanket up, or right before you lift the kid up in the air. So once they know that routine, you're going to give that expectant pause. You're going to look at them, you're going to be smiling, your eyes are going to be bright, and hopefully they're going to give you some kind of communication, right? It could be wiggling their body a little bit. It could be reaching out and touching their device, whatever it is. But treat anything that child does as turn taking and communication, and respond enthusiastically. And do the same thing. Use those expectant pauses once you're done with the game. Don't just automatically start the game over again. Do that expectant pause and let them, participate and let you know that, oh, I want to do more. Okay. So here's some examples of verbal routines for those body-based games. You want to go really, really simple. So, and you want to create like drama with your voice. So it's like, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. Ooh, I'm gonna get you. Got you. Right? Or we can be, wait, jump. Or we can be walking. We all fall down. Okay, you get the point. So while you're doing that, you're going to try, and it's hard because you've got this little one in your hands and you're being very physical. You're going to try to model on the talker, maybe the last word in the routine, or all done. Once you're done, more, or again, show them how to ask for more, that kind of stuff. And then comments like funny, fun, like, silly, that kind of stuff. And it is really hard when you're doing those body-based games to use the talker sometimes, depending on how lively that kid is. So I really find it helpful. I take like a screenshot and then I print it onto these really big, I don't know what you even call them, like a muscle shirt from Walmart, whatever they are. I get them like the biggest size I can get in the men's section. And use it as kind of like an apron that my parents can put on, or I can put on, but I'm usually doing a lot of parent coaching. So it's usually the parents. And that way, they don't have to worry about, oh, where's the device? And, oh, wait. It's like on them, and it's very handy. As they're picking the child up in the air, they can be modeling. And there's other ways to do that too. You can put something on a lanyard, you can have a laminated sheet of cardstock, something like that. But do what you can to just make it easy for yourself to model while you're doing those very physical games. Okay, so for your kids who do unconventional play, you are going to, this is so important, guys. You have to get face to face with that kid, not in an obnoxious way, not in a getting in your face and demanding too much interaction. Okay, we're not doing that, but they have to be able to see what you're doing, and they're not intrinsically drawn towards looking at you. So you're gonna get face to face with that kid, but you're not gonna be threatening. You're gonna be just real quiet. You're gonna be gentle, and you're just gonna watch what they're doing. And after a couple minutes, you're gonna make some admiring noises when they do something that's kind of cool that they are really interested in. You can be like, ooh, or wee, or wow, or yay, whatever. You might model a few words on the device. The kid's not going to be looking at it, but they're going to hear it, and that's good. But you've got to look excited, okay? You're going to be there. You're going to be focused on what they're doing. You're going to be an appreciative audience for that kid, and your face is going to look animated. You're going to look fun. And after a few minutes, you're going to try to be helpful. So you're going to hand them some toys, right? If they're putting to, I feel like I keep coming back to this example, but if you're lining up toy cars, if the kid's doing that, so give the kid a car that's kind of, hard for them to reach way into the box and get it for them. With no expectations. You're not trying to get them to say more. You're not trying to get them to say want. You're just showing that you're a helpful, fun person. And if something falls that they want, you go ahead and get it for them and say, here, okay? So what you're doing is you're building trust, you're building rapport. And once you have like a sense that the kid feels good about your presence there, that's awesome. You've accomplished so much already. And then you're ready to build. So after a while, you can start to copy what they do, okay? Again, you're admiring what they do, and you're doing that like parallel play where you're right there, but you're not putting any expectations on them. You're just doing what they do. So if they're banging something against the table, you pick something up and bang it against the table, and you make your happy noises, okay? And you might feel silly the first couple times, but it's okay because it really works. They usually notice what you're doing and they like it, usually. I can't say always. Sometimes you're banging a toy that they want and then they're like, whatever. But for the most part, they really like seeing that. And it draws their attention. It really does in a way that you don't normally see. Like you think this kid is just like kind of in their own little world. But if you really try to go into their world and do what they're doing, they do notice and they do look at you and they're suddenly gravitating towards you, which is really exciting. And so once you've been able to do that for a while, you can start introducing new ways to play with that toy. So it might be other unconventional ways. You might want to do that to be kind of silly, that might draw their attention, but you also want to show them how to play with the toys in conventional ways. And what you're looking to do eventually is to develop a repertoire of a whole bunch of toys that they can play with conventionally, because of course they need to have those skills in order to do like more complex play and to really build their skills. Only after you've built that trust and rapport, sometimes it can be good to just playfully, really playfully, nicely, not meanly, interrupt the play. So if they have their line of cars, you can crash a toy car into their line and be like, oh no, help, while you're modeling help on the talker. And please don't be obnoxious. Please don't mess up something that they spent so much time doing and they're totally focused on. But if you see like they could tolerate a little bit of like unexpectedness and surprise, sometimes they really like that. It really engages them. So for your kid and go accordingly. All right. with these kids who are doing unconventional play, try to be careful about the toys that you use. So some of the horses here are awesome. This kid loves them. They're very realistic. Some of the horses that I have are not so great. They're like dollar store horses. Their eyes are painted on crooked, and they're made out of flimsy plastic, and they're much smaller than the other horses. And so most of the time, if I'm imitating an action, or I'm imitating what that kid is doing, to try to get their attention, I don't want to use a toy that they really want, because then they're just going to be like, give me that, I want to use a toy that they see me doing the action that they're doing, but they don't really want that toy. It's just kind of like a nerdy little toy that they're not so interested in. Fine. So it's not threatening for me to do it that way. I also see that picture down there. I bought it at Goodwill. It's like the perfect non-threatening toy to use because it's I guess a ram, whatever. When I bought it, a kid had chewed off one of the legs. So like no kid ever wants to play with that because it doesn't stand up, it topples over. So find toys that they're not going to mind you using to imitate them. And of course, you're going to keep the device close to the kid because you want them to see whatever you're modeling, and it's going to be hard for them. So make sure that it's really, really close to them, not obnoxiously close, but close enough. Okay, and some words to consider modeling. So you want to label, again, this is all based on what you think and what your particular needs are. You might want to consider modeling labels for the toys that you're using, the actions you're doing. Uh-oh is really popular with these kids, or other exclamatory words. Comments, look, or other words to get someone's attention. Help, more. Stop, don't, all done. Want you can model as a request. You can also model it as a question. You can be offering them a toy. Again, that's you as the helpful partner. Want, okay. And whatever, what does your kid seem interested in? So of course, follow their interest. That's what you should be modeling. All right, kids who are at the functional place, who are interested in functional play, I should say. So you're going to keep using all the skills that we already talked about being a fun play partner. You're going to get face-to-face. You're going to follow their lead, be fun, be helpful, copy what they do, copy what they do, model language. And then since these kids are playing with toys the way they were intended, you're not as much working on thinking about how to help them develop their play skills. I mean, that is an important thing for us to do, but you want to really think about things like turn taking and joint attention at this type of play. So I would start out usually working on really simple turn taking. So use a toy that has multiple pieces, like a shape sorter or something, and be really playful and nice about it, because they're going to want to put all the pieces in themselves, of course. But you just hold out one and you'd be like, my turn, and just do it so fast that they barely have time to get mad. That is the key. Do it super, super fast and smile and sound super animated when you do it. And gradually develop those turn-taking skills for them and help them to see that, turn-taking is actually really fun. And especially a toy like a ball or a balloon is something where you can help them see, wow, this is a lot more fun with somebody, taking turns, rolling it back, bouncing it back and forth in the air, if it's the balloon, whatever. That's really fun. So and then you're going to also look at ways to encourage joint attention. So you want them to be able to pay attention to the toy and to you, which is hard, right? So there's a lot of ways to do that. Go look in those books if you want more details, but a really crucial thing to do is to do lots of pointing and to use your super animated voice to show, to comment, to label. So you might be saying, look, or cool, or ball, right? Whatever. And then after a while, they're going to be like following your point. They're going to be expecting something amazing. Like when you point, there's something interesting. And then eventually you're going to build in those expectant pauses after you point so that the child's kind of looking at you. And there's more to do with that, but that's just a good thing to do to get started. And then you're going to be looking for opportunities to encourage imitation. So you want to do unexpected things with the toy and then laugh, like make that toy car go crash off the edge of the table, and like the kid is really startled, you know, because you're an adult and you're doing this and you're laughing, whatever. Okay, so those are some of the kind of things that you can be working on within functional play. And some of the words that you might consider modeling, of course, all the stuff that we've already talked about, those types of words, we continue to model them. But you might want to think about words for turn taking. So it might be mine or my, maybe you or your. I always focus on mine, and I save you and your for a lot later. But you do what works for you. You might put turn. You might put want. You might put stop. Like if the kid is kind of wanting to tell you, like, stop, I don't really like you, like, doing this turn taking thing. He might need you to kind of model, like, stop and give him a little break from that turn taking. And you want to model words for joint attention. So look or see. Oh, see ball, see ball. And more describing words and comments that are specifically within that context of joint attention. And then you can be narrating the activity and modeling keywords from your narration. So you can be describing for the kid what you guys are doing, like, oh, ball, throw ball. We're throwing the ball, right? And you're not modeling on the talker, we're throwing the ball, because they're not at that stage yet. But you're saying that whole phrase, and you're modeling those key words for them, and you're helping them to kind of hear verbalized what is going on, what you guys are doing, which is nice. And then you also should include in your narration, or consider including in your narration, words related to how that kid might be feeling or thinking. So I'm never going to say, like, oh, so-and-so is feeling happy, so-and-so whatever, but I might say, oh, Joe's smiling. I think Joe is happy, right? So I might be modeling and just putting a couple keywords from there, like happy and I don't know, maybe smiling, whatever your kid can handle. But that's good, because you want to keep building that vocabulary. And within the context of this kind of play, that's how to do it. All right. Some tips for your toys, handling your toys. You want to limit the number of pieces in a set. So don't give them the entire box of toys. Before the session, go through and pull out just a few toys, because otherwise the kids are just going to be like trying to accumulate every single toy that you have and kind of hoarding them in the corner. It's like amazing, I love all these toys. They're so amazing, but I'm not really playing with them, right? So you want to limit that. And then for your kids who have a really hard time sharing, I like to get pairs of toys. So here I have two tow trucks, and they are identical. In picture number 1, you can see they are absolutely identical. So if we're doing functional play and we're zooming our cars around and we're saying beep, beep, or whatever we're doing, it can be really frustrating for some of our kids, right? Like, oh my gosh, give me that. I want that. But it's easier for them if it is the exact same thing that they already have. And I can easily be modeling for them, look, same. Wow, same. And then I can kind of gradually wean them a little bit. So in picture 2, you see I have the same exact, what do you call it, tow truck, but it's in different colors. So the shape and the design are exactly the same, but the colors are different. So my kid might be able to tolerate that after a while of getting used to me playing with an identical toy. Now he can tolerate, hopefully he can tolerate one that's similar, but not exactly. And then you just kind of work them through. Depending on your kid, they might not need you to do this, but some of the kids do need you to kind of gradually work them through cars that are more and more dissimilar until you reach the point where they can handle you having a car that's bigger than theirs, even more exciting than theirs, that kind of stuff, and not just completely fall apart. And if they want a toy that you have, I mean, you can model for them how to request if they are so focused on that toy that they kind of forgot that they can ask for it, just kind of give them that modeling. And usually you want to avoid toys that the kid is super attached to. Right now I have a little guy who's really into Paw Patrol. And I tried introducing Paw Patrol, like one of these his name is Chase. He's a dog. I tried putting him into our play, but it was just too much because he loved him too much. He couldn't concentrate on our interaction. He just could concentrate on this dog. And a lot of our kids have toys that they're so used to playing with in certain, like, I don't know, very stereotyped ways that they have a hard time interacting with us with that toy. So don't go there. Just don't play with those toys that they are not so flexible about. And you do want to continue to work on getting their attention when you're modeling. And one way to do that is to move the object that they're looking at over to the talker. So if they're like, ooh, bubbles, I want some more bubbles or whatever, you guys are playing bubbles together and you're helping that kid to blow the bubble and you're taking turns to do that, whatever. So move the bubbles over to where the talker says bubble, and then they're more likely to be able to really pay attention to you modeling where that is on their device. Okay, so for kids who are very interested in constructive play, you're going to continue to use all the skills that we've already discussed, but it has, like we said, that added element of working on creating something and having some sort of goal in mind. So the words that you would consider modeling, of course, all the other stuff you're not going to abandon, but in addition to the words that we've already talked about, so you would maybe want to do words that are related to working together toward a goal. So asking where to put something, ask the kid, where should I put this? And on your talker, you're modeling where, asking your partner's opinion, like, wow, it's so tall, wow, what do you think of it? That kind of thing. Asking what you should put on the structure. Like, you can model what or whatever. Complimenting it, like, wow, like, well, not complimenting the thing that we already covered, but complimenting the person who did it, like, good job, whatever. Like, there's stuff you can do within that context to show, like, how you can work together and have fun and accomplish something together. And then a word for suggesting, like let's. I think let's is really powerful. It's really nice to teach kids how to suggest stuff. They may not get it, but it's nice to model it because they eventually will get it. And then when you're doing that constructive play with them, try to find ways to model pretend play within that constructive play. So here, like, we have this little tower. That's my son in the background. I said, oh, I need a picture for my presentation. Can you build me something? So he built up a little tower. And this is what I do at work a lot. So the kid will build up something, and then I'm going to open the door. In other words, like, kind of open one of the, I don't know how to describe it, but these are magnetic, right? So you kind of pull it on one side and it opens up kind of like a door. And then I can put like little dollhouse dolls or dinosaurs or whatever. I can put stuff in there, and I can, pretend that they're sitting in the tower and they're eating their dinner and they're doing whatever. And a lot of times kids really enjoy that. So that can be another really good way of extending their play and helping, just create more opportunities for language within something that they're highly focused on. But you want to expand to be able to say different types of vocabulary. That's a good way to do it. Okay. And then for our kids who are engaged by pretend play, please realize that the kid may already be engaging in rich pretend play. So, I have a little girl in my caseload who just, I guess it was last week, she's very jargony, and she does not like to play with me or other people at all. We've been working on it, and And she was holding this doll and she was saying all kinds of jargon and shaking the doll up and down. And I took my doll that looked almost identical to hers and I shook it up and down and I said the same kind of stuff she was saying in her jargon. And I said it in my high pitched, I'm playing doll kind of voice. And oh my goodness, she looked up at me and she looked stunned in a good way. And then she grinned. I mean, she just looked so delighted. Okay. And I was just so happy because I'm like, I see like a tiny little glimpse of what's going on. And I can't know what's going on, but I can see clearly there's a lot that's happening in her play world. And she was delighted in that moment for me to enter her play world. And like we talked about, there's different types of pretend play. So it could be performing one pretend action on yourself, performing one pretend action on a toy or another person, performing a whole bunch of different pretend actions, acting out stories you make up, whatever. So where the kid is, you meet them there and you give them the language to talk about what they're doing, and then you gradually expand those play skills, and that will give you more opportunity for ever increasing language. And it's really important with the pretend play to be super dramatic and be super anthropomorphic, okay? So your cars are going to kiss. They are going to fly. They are, well, yeah, they're going to kiss. They're going to fly. They're going to go to sleep. They're going to eat. They are going to nibble the child's toes. They're going to do all kinds of things, okay? We're going to engage them by doing all kinds of unexpected things. And we are going to do lots of modeling in our pretend play where the child is the hero. So our doll or our car, whoever we're playing with is going to get into lots of trouble. They're going to fall. They're going to get hurt. They're going to need a kiss. They're going to need a Band-Aid. And you're going to need to kind of exclaim over their boo-boo. And so you're going to go to that child and be like, oh, help, help. I got hurt. Okay, you're talking for the car. Okay. I got help. And whatever. It's very engaging. And I sometimes can't believe I get paid to do this all day, but it's amazing the progress that the kids make when you get really engaged in play. And so when you are doing pretend play, the words to consider modeling, of course, everything we've talked about already, you're going to continue doing, but you're going to do it in funny voices, okay? So you might do, like I said, the high-pitched voice is very good for getting their attention. You want to do sometimes a very low-pitched voice or an angry voice or a scared voice, okay? Whatever it is. Let your inner actor come out. No one's looking. It's in a little therapy room. No one's going to know about it. And then as the child develops their pretend skills, this is where you can have the characters you're playing with, the dolls or the teddy bear or whatever it is, act out situations that are hard for the kid. So I really recommend modeling lots of language that's related to self-advocacy. So I need a break, I don't want to, things like that, how to handle it if someone's bothering you or if you're hurt. And those are all kind of negative things, but there's all kinds of stuff that you can work on through play. It could be, any kind of change in routine is hard for a lot of our kids. So it could be something that's totally positive, like grandma's coming for a visit. But for our kids, it's jarring. So we can kind of work through that and kind of give them some language to help them understand that, to know a little bit more how to communicate about all the stuff that's going on in their lives. Okay, and when you are doing pretend play, and a really good way to get their attention, again, you're still working on getting their attention when you're modeling, you want them looking, is to use puppets or dolls to model with. And a lot of times kids who are resistant a little bit to you using their talker have no problem at all with a doll or a puppet doing the modeling. And I have to say, I have tried really hard to create puppets that will actually activate the iPad. I've tried all different kinds of stuff with styluses and stuff, but it never really worked out so great. So even though they are, the puppet is pointing right to that word, I'm still activating it with my finger, which is less than ideal. And I hope somebody comes up with a really awesome puppet that can activate an SGD. That would be amazing. I would buy a lot of them. Okay, so I really have to finish up here, but when you're doing all this play stuff, so you want to be in touch with the parents. I'm lucky because working in a clinic, I see my parents every week, and I do a ton of coaching. But if you're in a different setting where you don't see the parents as frequently, it can be a little bit harder, but let's make it work because the kids and the parents, they grow and gain so much from working on language within play, within stuff that is already intrinsically motivating to their kids and meeting them where they are. So it's really good to sit down with the parents and talk to them about the idea of communicative functions. Like, your kid is doing great with requesting. We're super excited. And here's some other things that you could think about. Like, we want Joe to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And what are some of the things that you would most like for him to be able to do? And kind of think about how that would look at home or whatever when you're playing with that child and they are primed for learning. What are the words that you're going to be modeling? So I have a worksheet that I use with my parents. And it has, this is partially what it looks like. It's a little bit longer, but it has 6 boxes, and it just lets you, it's real simple, lets you fill in what toy or game you might play, and then what communicative function you could target and the words you could model. So that really, it's like visual, and it encourages the parents to work on modeling a variety of communicative functions. And it also helps them a lot because they're not so familiar with where words are on the device when they're starting out, and it's intimidating. So if they know that they have X number of words that they're going to work on modeling, they can sit down when their kid's in bed and practice how to find those and write themselves some little Post-it notes or whatever they need to do to get familiar with where those are. And you can use that as a really good, I like to have the parents work on like on a weekly basis. They're sitting down with me, we're talking together, jointly deciding on words that we might model, and then we're coming back the next week and we have that sheet to refer back to and be like, okay, how did it go? And then we can, troubleshoot as needed. And of course, like, you're playing it by ear, you're going based on what the child wants. So you may not do any of these. You're following the child's lead in play, so the things you're thinking will be interesting to him might not be, but at least this is a good starting point, and it makes parents feel a lot calmer when it comes to modeling all these things that are a little, like, I would say, less intuitive for parents. They get requesting, but some of the other stuff is just a little harder sometimes. And I usually also give my parents these sheets where I have my list. I have some early communicative functions that, like, typically developing children, if you think about their first words, what are some of the things that they are commonly communicating for? And then I have one which is a list of some other reasons to communicate. So that's just good to kind of start that discussion and talk about things that we might want to focus on. Okay, so time is almost up. And I have those sheets available to you. Anyone who wants them, you can just go download them. It's my website is allkindsofvoices.com, and you're going to have to just like type that into the window, allkindsofvoices.com/freebies. And then, yeah, so that will allow you to you'll sign up and get the download link in your email to have those. And I hope that that is helpful for you working with your parents. And then, okay, I am done. I was worried that I would run out of time, but I think I just made it. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I think we really don't have time for questions, but if you have any questions, you can connect with me on Instagram. I'm at All Kinds of Voices, and I would love to hear from you. I don't have all the answers, but maybe I can help you troubleshoot if there's anything going on.
is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this. And I'm going to make you pronounce your first name one more time because I know I've slaughtered it.
It's kind of like this guttural throat sound. So it's Chana.
Chana. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the things you've shared and what great resources. I know people are really excited to kind of get their hands on that. So thank you for your experience and your insights, and we really appreciate you being part of this conference. Thanks to those who have attended this session. Feel free to check into our lobby for some additional breakout sessions that are going on. But thank you everyone who's participated. We really appreciate it.